Alrighty, welcome to lesson 34. This lesson is kind of complicated because there are two parts. So I'm even going to divide my screen in two sections. So the first part of our lesson really has to do with organization. And my pen decided not to work. One second. There we go. Organization. If you stay organized, this should be pretty easy. Let's say that you have a problem like this. 2 3/4 plus 3 1/8 plus 7 1/2. So not a completely complicated problem. All you would do is first add the whole numbers. 2 plus 3 plus 7 is 12. And then you would add the fractions, which we need to convert to a common denominator. We have fourths, eighths, and halves. So the lowest common denominator would be an 8. This one's already an eighth. So let's convert everything to eighths. 4 goes into 8 how many times? Well, 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. This one's already done for us. 2 goes into 8 how many times? Well, 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. Then we can add the fraction parts, and we get 6/8 plus 1/8 plus 4/8 equals 11/8. Now, as you hopefully notice, this is an improper fraction, so let's go ahead and simplify that. Instead of saying 12 11/8, let's just say 13, because we have a whole pie right here. 13 3/8. So this would be your correct answer. So are these crazy complicated? No. Does it mean you have to stay very organized? Yes. So step 1, add the whole numbers. Step 2, add the denominators. You need to find that common denominator, convert them, add them, write down your final answer, make sure there aren't any improper fractions, and then simplify your answer. So remember, key is just organization. I'm sure you can do it. Second part of our lesson is on rate. A rate is a type of ratio. Have you heard of that word before? We use ratios often. Sometimes you will be cooking, or I do a lot of cooking, and let's say you had a recipe that said 1 cup of flour, 2 cups of sugar. Let's say it was for like some super sweet cookies. And you read that recipe, and let's say you're going to make a batch of, I don't even know what you call that, but you're going to make 5 times the recipe. So a lot of cookies. Now you think, how much flour do I need? How much sugar do I need? Well, if you notice that there is a certain ratio going on, for every 1 cup of flour, you are adding 2 cups of sugar. So if you think, well, if I just add twice as much sugar as I add flour, then I should be following this recipe. Or let's say you didn't even know how many times you wanted to make. But let's say that you knew you had 7 cups of flour. Well, then you might think, okay, well, if I just add twice as much sugar, then I'll add 14 cups of sugar. So all that to say, a ratio is just looking at the relationship between two numbers, between this 2, between this 1, and making an observation. And we use ratios not just for recipes, but we also use it for speed. So for instance, if the highway says 55 miles per hour, that means in 1 hour, you would drive 55 miles if you stayed at the speed limit. So as you can see, it's again comparing two numbers, 55 miles in 1 hour. We call those ratios or rates. So let's go ahead and look at a practice problem. Let's say there was this guy who bought 5 toys for $40. So do we have 2 numbers? Yes, we have a 5 and a 40. Now we're supposed to make 2 types of ratios or 2 types of rates. And the first question is, what is the rate in dollars per toy? So what this means is we're going to have dollars on the top, dollars. Whatever you say first goes on top, dollars per toy. Well, how many dollars did he spend? $40. How many toys did he buy? 5 toys. Now, can we simplify this a little bit? Yes, we can reduce that a little bit. 40 divided by 5 is 8. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we can say $8 for 1 toy. So maybe you're making a budget and you're trying to figure out how, let's say that you spend $49 a week and you want to know what your rate of spending is. Well, there are 7 days in a week. So if you spend $49 in 7 days, let's simplify that. 49 divided by 7 is 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So your rate of spending would be $7 per 1 day, or spending $7 every single day. So these are very practical types of equations. We can use it for figuring out budgets. We can use it for figuring out recipes. We can use it for figuring out speeds. But the most important thing to remember is that it's comparing two numbers and that whatever you say first goes on top. So if you're trying to figure out the rate of dollars per toy, just put dollars in the top in the numerator and toy in the denominator. If you're trying to find the rate of toys per dollar, because that's another way you could look at it, I'm going to have to jump over here. If you're trying to do toys, if I can spell toys per dollar, well, he bought, again, 5 toys for $40. Let's simplify that. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 40 divided by 5 is 8. 1 toy for $8. So it's just another way of expressing the same information. So sometimes you want to know how much 1 toy costs, and sometimes you want to know how much $8 will buy you. Okay, so this has been a 2-part lesson. First of all, on how to add mixed numbers. Start with the whole numbers, then do the fractions, and also all about rates and ratios, which will have a lot of very practical applications if you can wrap your mind around it. Don't worry if it's still a little shaky. Just remember the tips I gave you and let me know if you have any questions.